Everyone abandoned her when she got pregnant, but she raised a boy who made her proud forever. The air was thick with tension as the pregnancy test revealed 2 pink lines. At just 22, she stared at it in disbelief, her hands trembling. A waitress at a small-town diner with dreams of becoming a nurse, her life was about to change forever. Welcome back and enjoy the story. Angela Matthews clutched the plastic stick with trembling fingers, her vision blurring as she stared at the undeniable truth displayed in its small window. 2 pink lines. Unmistakable. Irrefutable. At 22, working as a waitress at Millie's Diner in Oak Ridge, Illinois, this wasn't part of her carefully constructed plan. Medical school applications waited half-completed on her laptop. Years of double shifts and night classes to earn her pre-med degree threatened to dissolve before her eyes, replaced by an uncertain future she couldn't begin to imagine. The bathroom of her tiny apartment seemed to shrink around her as she sank to the edge of the bathtub, her knees suddenly too weak to support her weight. Outside, Chicago's autumn painted the trees in brilliant colors while pedestrians hurried along sidewalks. Dusted with early fallen leaves, life continued its relentless pace beyond her walls, indifferent to how hers had just fundamentally changed. "Mark needs to know," she whispered to herself, her voice catching on his name. 3 years together, moving from college sweethearts to what she thought was a stable relationship built on mutual dreams. Mark Chapman, with his easy smile and medical school acceptance letter already framed on their apartment wall. They had planned to get married after his first year of residency. Children would come later, much later, after both had established their careers. Angela's phone felt unnaturally heavy as she lifted it from the bathroom counter. Her thumb hovered over Mark's contact information, the smiling photo of him she'd taken during their weekend trip to Lake Michigan, mocking her with its carefree happiness. 3 rings, then his familiar voice answered with the casual ease of someone whose world remained intact. "Hey, can you come home? I need to talk to you about something important," she managed, fighting to keep her voice steady. "Now? I'm in the middle of study group. Can it wait until tonight?" "No," she said softly, surprising herself with the firmness in her voice. "No, it can't wait." The 63 minutes she spent waiting for Mark became an exercise in controlled panic. She paced the cramped living room of their apartment, rehearsing words that refused to arrange themselves into sensible sentences. When his key finally turned in the lock, Angela stood frozen in the center of the room, the pregnancy test hidden behind her back like damning evidence. Mark's expression shifted from mild annoyance to concern as he took in her tear-stained face. "Angela, what's wrong? Did something happen with your family?" The irony of his question would only become apparent later. Instead of answering, she extended her hand, the pregnancy test lying flat on her palm like an offering. "I'm pregnant," she said, the words hanging in the space between them. What followed was a conversation that would replay in Angela's mind countless times over the years ahead. Mark's initial shock gave way not to joy or even thoughtful consideration, but to a cold calculation she had never witnessed in him before. "This can't happen now," he said, pacing the length of their small living room. "We had a plan, Angela, medical school, establishing our careers, financial stability, then children. You know that." "I know what our plan was," she replied, her hand unconsciously moving to rest against her still flat abdomen. "But plans change." "They don't have to," Mark said, his voice lowering. "There are options." The word hung between them, loaded with implications that struck Angela with physical force. "I can't do that," she whispered. "I won't." "Then I don't know what to tell you," Mark responded, running his hands through his hair in frustration. "I'm starting medical school in 3 months. I can't be a father now, I can't." "I'm not asking you to change your plans," Angela said, reaching for his hand. "We can figure this out together. People make it work all the time." Mark pulled away, moving toward the window that overlooked the busy Chicago street below. For several long minutes he said nothing, his back to her like a wall being constructed between their past and future. When he finally turned, his expression had hardened into something unrecognizable. "I need some time to think," he said, already reaching for his jacket. I'll stay with Jason tonight. Angela wanted to protest, to demand they face this together, immediately, but exhaustion swept through her with such intensity that she could only nod. We'll talk tomorrow, she said, clinging to the belief that sleep and reflection would bring the Mark she knew back to her. The apartment door closed with a soft click that belied the devastating finality it represented. In the morning, Angela would discover that sometime meant forever. Mark's essential belongings disappeared while she was working a double shift at the diner. His three-line note, "I'm not ready for this, I'm sorry, don't contact me," became the first abandonment in what would soon become an avalanche. Angela spent that night alone in their bed, now just her bed, staring at the ceiling as tears tracked silently down her temples and into her hair. Her hand rested protectively over her stomach, where a tiny life grew unaware of the chaos its existence had already created. "It's you and me now," she whispered into the darkness, making the first of many promises to her unborn child. "Whatever happens, we'll face it together." She couldn't have known then how severely that promise would be tested in the days to come, or how powerfully it would shape both their lives in the years ahead. Sunday dinners at the Matthews family home had been sacrosanct for as long as Angela could remember. Even during college, she'd made the 40-minute drive from Chicago to Oak Ridge most weekends, slipping easily back into her place at the large oak table where generations of her family had gathered. Her parents, Richard, a bank manager whose rigid principles governed both his professional and personal life, and Diane, a high school English teacher whose devotion to appearances equaled her husband's devotion to propriety, presided over these meals with a formality that had always seemed comforting in its predictability. Now, as Angela sat across from them, the familiar scent of her mother's pot roast turned her stomach for reasons beyond morning sickness. Her younger sister Bethany, home from her sophomore year at Northwestern, darted nervous glances between family members, sensing the tension but unaware of its source. "I have something to tell you," Angela began, setting down her fork with a hand she forced to remain steady. The rehearsed speech she'd prepared dissolved into 3 stark words. "I'm pregnant." The silence that followed seemed to stretch into eternity. Her father's fork clattered against fine china, while her mother's hand flew to the cross pendant she always wore, a reflexive gesture seeking divine guidance for an earthly disappointment. "How could you be so careless?" Her father finally spoke, his voice eerily controlled. "After everything we've sacrificed for your education." "It wasn't planned," Angela responded, fighting to keep her voice even. "But I'm going to have this baby." "And Mark?" her mother asked, clinging to propriety like a lifeline. "When is the wedding?" Angela's silence answered more eloquently than words could have. "He left," she eventually said, the admission burning her throat. "Yesterday." What followed was not the embrace of support she had desperately hoped for, but a strategic family meeting where she became less a daughter and more a problem requiring solution. Her father, ever practical, laid out options with clinical detachment. Her mother, eyes fixed on some middle distance to avoid meeting Angela's gaze, murmured about what people would say. "You have 2 choices," Richard Matthews finally declared, hands folded on the table like a judge delivering a verdict. "Either terminate this pregnancy and get your life back on track, or you're on your own. We won't support this car mistake." "Dad, please," Angela whispered, reaching across the table. "This is your grandchild." "Not if you insist on ruining your life," he responded, withdrawing his hand. "We raised you better than this, Angela. Unwed motherhood. What about medical school? What about everything you've worked for?" "I can still become a nurse," she insisted. "It will take longer, but... And who will support you while you do this? Who will watch this child while you're in classes? Have you thought about any of this?" Her mother's questions came rapid fire, each one striking with precision. "I'll figure it out," Angela said, a note of defiance entering her voice. "People do it all the time." "Not in this family." Her father's final pronouncement fell like an axe. "Not with our support." Through tear-blurred vision, Angela noticed Bethany staring at her plate, shoulders hunched in silent witness to their parents' ultimatum. No support offered, no sisterly alliance formed, just mute acceptance of the family decree. "You have until the end of the month to reconsider," her father continued. "After that, if you persist in this foolishness, you're no longer welcome here." Angela left her childhood, home that evening with the strange, hollow certainty that she was seeing it for the last time. The familiar porch swing where she'd studied for high school exams, the carefully tended flower beds her mother refreshed each spring, the driveway where she'd learned to ride a bicycle. All of it suddenly felt like artifacts from someone else's life. The universe wasn't done with Angela Matthews. The following Wednesday, she returned to her apartment to find an eviction notice taped to her door. The property management company, owned by her father's golf partner, cited lease violations that Angela knew were fabricated. With Mark gone and his portion of the rent now her responsibility, fighting the eviction would drain what little savings she had managed to accumulate. 30 days. The deadline marched toward her with cruel efficiency. Phone calls to distant relatives were met with awkward excuses. Former classmates suddenly remembered space limitations in their apartments. The few friends who hadn't disappeared with Mark offered sympathy, but little else. On a rain-soaked Friday, exactly 1 month after discovering her pregnancy, Angela stood on the sidewalk outside her former apartment building, a single suitcase containing the remnants of her contracted life at her feet. The Chicago wind cut through her inadequate jacket, carrying the first hint of winter's approach. Traffic splashed past, indifferent to her presence. Her phone, silent for days, remained so. Somewhere in the city, Mark continued his path toward becoming a doctor. 40 minutes away in Oak Ridge, her family sat down to dinner without setting a place for her. And here she stood, 22 years old, 11 weeks pregnant, with nowhere to go. Angela placed her hand over her abdomen, feeling a fierce protectiveness surge through her despite, or perhaps because of, the absolute abandonment she faced. "We might be alone now," she whispered, her words visible as vapor in the cold air. "But I will give you everything I never had." Pulling her suitcase behind her, Angela walked toward the bus stop that would take her to Millie's Diner, the only place left where someone might still know her name. If you are enjoying the story, type 5 in the comments and subscribe for more videos like this. If not, type 0. It helps me create even better content for you. Continuing, Millie Horvath had owned the same corner diner in Chicago's Rogers Park neighborhood for 42 years. At 76, with hands gnarled from arthritis and a spine that refused to straighten completely, she still arrived at 4:30 each morning to prepare biscuit dough and set coffee brewing. The neighborhood had transformed multiple times around her establishment, but Millie's menu, prices and no-nonsense demeanor remained constants in an ever-changing urban landscape. When Angela appeared in the diner's doorway that rainy evening, soaked to the skin and pulling a single suitcase, Millie recognized the look of absolute desolation on the young woman's face. She'd seen it before, in her own mirror, almost 50 years earlier. "Sit," she commanded, pointing to a booth in the corner, furthest from the few customers lingering over late dinners. She poured coffee without asking, then fetched a towel from the back for Angela's dripping hair. "I've been evicted," Angela explained, trying to maintain composure as her voice threatened to break. "And I'm pregnant. Mark left my parents." She couldn't finish the sentence. Millie studied the young woman who had been her most reliable waitress for the past 3 years. Never late, always willing to take extra shifts, quietly working. On homework during slow periods. Now watching Angela struggle to maintain dignity while her life collapsed around her, Millie made a decision that defied both business sense and the prevailing morality of many of her regular customers. "There's a storage room in the back," she said, her voice matter-of-fact to disguise the extraordinary nature of her offer. "Got a couch in there I use for naps sometimes. It's yours until you figure something else out." Angela's eyes widened. "Millie, I couldn't—" "Yes, you can," the older woman interrupted. "What you can't do is sleep on the street in your condition. Consider it an advance on your paycheck." That night, Angela slept on the narrow couch in Millie's storage room, surrounded by industrial-sized cans of vegetables and boxes of napkins. The space was barely large enough for the furniture it contained, with a small bathroom down the hall. that she would need to vacate before the diner opened each morning. But it was shelter, the only shelter available to her. What began as an emergency solution gradually transformed into a sustainable, if deeply uncomfortable, living arrangement. Angela continued working her regular shifts, adding extra hours, whenever possible. She stored her clothing in a cardboard wardrobe created from empty supply boxes. Her laptop sat on an upturned milk crate beside the couch, where she continued her online nursing prerequisites with a determination that grew alongside her expanding waistline. Millie's generosity, however, had limits defined by business necessity. As Angela's pregnancy began to show, the older woman reluctantly reduced her front-of-house hours. "Some of these old-timers are too set in their ways," Millie explained apologetically, moving Angela to morning shifts when fewer regular customers would see her condition. "I can't afford to lose their business, girl, not in this economy." Angela nodded, understanding the compromise even as it reduced her income when she most needed stability. Rather than complaining, she found solution in sacrifice, taking on house-cleaning jobs on weekends through an app-based service. The work was physically taxing, especially as her pregnancy advanced, but it provided cash that she carefully saved in a mason jar labeled Future, hidden behind the coffee supplies. The isolation of her new existence cut deeper than the physical discomfort. Former friends from her pre-medicine classes stopped texting when their invitations were repeatedly declined. Angela couldn't afford even the simplest social outings, and her living situation wasn't one she could explain or share. Her sister, Bethany, sent one tentative message asking if she was okay. But when Angela responded with her location and situation, no further communication followed. Most weekends she cleaned immaculate homes belonging to wealthy families, enduring comments that ranged from well-intentioned but tone-deaf advice to outright disdain. "You're so brave," one woman remarked, while Angela scrubbed her marble bathroom floor on hands and knees, 7 months pregnant. "I could never manage without my husband's support. Have you considered adoption? There are so many wonderful couples looking for babies." Another employer, noticing Angela's condition, requested she use a separate bathroom from the family just to be safe. When Angela asked what safety concerns the woman might have, she was met with flustered backpedaling that did nothing to disguise the prejudice behind the request. Despite these indignities, Angela maintained a meticulous record of her progress. Her online classes received her full attention during late nights on the storage room couch. Her prenatal vitamins, prescribed by a clinic offering services on a sliding scale, were taken religiously. The small jar of savings grew incrementally with each exhausting week that passed. "Your mama is building something," she would whisper to her growing belly during quiet moments. "It doesn't look like much right now, but just wait, we're going. Somewhere better than where we started." The diner became the closest thing to home, with Millie acting as a reluctant guardian. The older woman never asked personal questions and offered advice only when solicited. But her watchful eyes tracked Angela's condition with growing concern as winter deepened and her due date approached. "You need proper medical care," Millie insisted one evening, placing a plate of food before Angela that contained noticeably larger portions than the standard diner serving. "So that free clinic is fine for checkups, but what about when the baby comes?" "I've registered at County Hospital," Angela explained, the admission procedure having consumed an entire day of waiting in hard plastic chairs. "They have a program for women without insurance. I'll be admitted when the time comes." Millie snorted her opinion of this plan but refrained from further comment. Instead, she silently began researching options that might help the young woman who reminded her so much of herself at a similar crossroads decades earlier. On a bitterly cold February morning, with Chicago buried under 8 inches of fresh snow, Angela woke on her storage room couch to a sensation she initially mistook for the back pain that had become her constant companion. Only when a rush of warm fluid soaked through her makeshift bedding did she realize what was happening. Her water had broken 5 days before her estimated due date. The diner wouldn't open for another 3 hours. Outside, snow continued falling in thick curtains, transforming the city into a treacherous obstacle course. Angela's repeated calls for taxis were met with apologies. The weather had overwhelmed available drivers. Her accumulated savings, while impressive for her circumstances, couldn't cover the surge pricing shown on rideshare apps. Gritting her teeth through the first recognizable contraction, Angela made a decision that would later become part of family legend. She changed into her warmest clothes, packed a small bag with necessities, and began walking the 2 miles to County Hospital. The journey through snow-choked streets, punctuated by increasingly intense contractions, became an exercise in pure endurance. Twice, she had to stop and lean against buildings, breathing through pain while pedestrians hurried past, heads bent against the weather, unseeing. At one point, a businessman in an expensive overcoat asked if she needed help, only to awkwardly retreat when she explained her situation. Angela arrived at the hospital emergency entrance nearly an hour after leaving the diner, her clothes soaked with sweat despite the freezing temperature, her hair crusted with snow, and her contractions now coming regularly at alarming intervals. The admission nurse took one look at her condition and bypassed normal procedures, wheeling her directly to labor and delivery. "Is someone coming to be with you, honey?" the nurse asked as she helped Angela change into a hospital gown. Angela's silence was answer enough. Her son entered the world at 10:27 that morning, his healthy cries echoing in a delivery room empty of family celebrations. 7 pounds, 4 ounces of new life, with a shock of dark hair and lungs that announced his arrival with impressive volume. When the nurse placed him in Angela's arms, exhaustion and pain receded before a wave of emotion so powerful it momentarily robbed her of breath. "Hey there," she whispered, counting tiny fingers with wonder. "I'm your mum. It's just us right now, but we're going to be okay." Later that afternoon, as Angela dozed with her newborn son in her arms, a hospital social worker named Eleanor Jenkins quietly entered the room. The details of Angela's intake form had triggered automatic flags in the system. Single mother, no listed emergency contacts, unemployed. Angela had been forced to quit both the diner and her cleaning jobs as her due date approached. And no permanent address. She had listed Millie's Diner, unable to admit she lived in its storage room. Unlike many overworked social workers in the overburdened system, Eleanor took time to listen to Angela's story without judgment. By the end of their conversation, she had connected Angela with a women's support program that provided temporary housing for new mothers, a 6-month placement in a shared apartment with access to childcare assistance and job placement services. "This isn't charity," Eleanor emphasized, correctly reading the reluctance in Angela's expression. "It's community support for a temporary situation. Everyone needs help sometimes." 3 days later, Angela carried her son, named Benjamin, meaning son of my right hand, a name that felt appropriate for the child who had become her strength, into a small but clean studio apartment in a building housing 4 other single mothers. The space contained donated furniture, a bathroom with reliable hot water, and windows that let in actual daylight, luxuries that brought tears to Angela's eyes after months in Millie's windowless storage room. On the small dresser, she placed her jar of savings, now dedicated to a future that had taken specific shape in the form of the tiny person sleeping in a second-hand bassinet beside her bed. "See?" she whispered to Benjamin as he slept, unaware of the significance of their new surroundings. "I told you we were going somewhere better." The road ahead remained daunting, but for the first time since seeing those 2 pink lines on the B pregnancy test, Angela allowed herself to believe they might actually make it. "So who's hungry? You're hungry, aren't you?" Angela cooed to 8-month-old Benjamin, who bounced enthusiastically in his second-hand high chair. His response was a bubbling giggle and hands that reached toward the small bowl of mashed sweet potatoes she prepared at the cramped kitchenette of their studio apartment. Motherhood had transformed Angela in ways both expected and surprising. The bone-deep exhaustion was anticipated. The fierce joy that accompanied even the smallest milestones was not. Benjamin's first smile, first rollover, first recognizable mama, each became treasured victories that sustained her through the relentless challenges of their daily existence. Their temporary housing program had expired 2 months earlier, forcing Angela to find affordable lodging in one of Chicago's less desirable neighborhoods. The walk-up apartment building featured peeling paint, unreliable heating, and walls so thin that neighbors' arguments became unwanted lullabies. But it was theirs, secured through careful budgeting and assistance from a housing subsidy program. Eleanor had helped her navigate. Angela's days followed a grueling routine that left little room for error or rest. She woke at 5 a.m. to prepare for her 6:30 shift at a hospital cafeteria, a position that paid minimally but offered crucial health benefits for both her and Benjamin. By 7 a.m., she delivered a still sleepy Benjamin to Sunshine Steps, a subsidized daycare center, 15 minutes away by bus. After her cafeteria shift ended at 2:30 p.m., she worked as a home health aide until 7 p.m., rushing back to collect Benjamin before the daycare's strict closing time. Evenings brought a precious 3 hours with her son before his bedtime, time Angela protected fiercely, despite exhaustion that made even the simplest tasks require conscious effort. No matter how depleted she felt, this time remained sacred, filled with reading board books, building block towers, and the simple joy of witnessing Benjamin's developing personality. "The very hungry caterpillar again?" she asked with exaggerated enthusiasm, already knowing the answer as Benjamin patted the colorful cover of his favorite book. His dark curls, so like her own, bobbed as he nodded emphatically. Angela believed passionately in surrounding Benjamin with language, determined that her circumstances wouldn't limit his development. Even during infancy, she had narrated everyday activities in detail, described the world outside their windows, and read aloud from her textbooks when children's books were exhausted. At 18 months, Benjamin's vocabulary already impressed his daycare teachers, who sometimes asked Angela about her teaching methods. "I just talk to him like he understands everything," she would explain with a shrug, "because someday he will." After Benjamin's bedtime came Angela's second shift, not of paid work, but of education. Her laptop balanced on a folding TV tray. She worked through online nursing courses, advancing slowly but steadily toward clinical placement. Some nights, staying awake required physical movement, standing rather than sitting, or completing assignments while pacing their small apartment. During particularly challenging units, she studied in the bathroom, the only space where a light wouldn't disturb Benjamin's sleep. The isolation of those early years settled around Angela like a familiar garment, uncomfortable but necessary. Friendships required time and often money she didn't have to spare. Dating seemed an absurd luxury when every hour was already allocated to survival or advancement. Occasional texts from Millie provided her only consistent connection to her pre-motherhood life. Yet within this demanding existence, Angela discovered reservoirs of strength she hadn't known she possessed. Each month that she met their basic needs while advancing her education felt like evidence that her decision to have Benjamin, to raise him alone, to pursue her goals despite overwhelming obstacles, had been the right one. The wall above, their kitchen table became a vision board of sorts, Benjamin's handprints in finger paint, Angela's nursing program acceptance letter, a calendar tracking progress toward her degree, photos documenting Benjamin's growth. Together, these created a visual reminder of both accomplishment and aspiration. "Look at you, smart boy," Angela praised, as Benjamin correctly identified a triangle in his shape sorter. His delighted smile at her approval became instant fuel, replenishing her depleted reserves. Later that night, after completing an online exam in pediatric assessment, Angela allowed herself a rare moment of indulgence. She opened her laptop's browser and searched for information about the university where Mark was completing his medical training. His smiling face appeared on the school's website, Student Spotlight, featuring his research project. He looked exactly the same, as though the seismic events that had transformed her life had left him untouched. Angela closed the browser, refusing to indulge the momentary bitterness that threatened to surface. Dwelling on what might have been, on the parallel life where Mark had stayed, where her parents had supported her, where her path toward medicine hadn't detoured through poverty and struggle, served no purpose. Instead, she opened their battered copy of Goodnight Moon and silently read the familiar words, finding comfort in their simple rhythm. Beside her, Benjamin slept peacefully, one small hand flung above his head in complete abandon. "We're doing okay, aren't we, Benji?" she whispered, smoothing a curl from his forehead. One day at a time. The next morning would bring another pre-dawn awakening, another rush to make 3 buses connect efficiently, another day of serving food to hospital staff who rarely made eye contact with cafeteria workers. But it would also bring Benjamin's delighted recognition when she picked him up from daycare, his enthusiastic mama. That made other parents smile indulgently, and incremental progress toward the future she was determined to create. For now, that would be enough. What if the carefully constructed balance of their lives suddenly shattered? That question loomed over Angela with terrifying implications, as Benjamin developed a fierce cough that rapidly deteriorated into labored breathing. At 4 years old, his normally exuberant energy had vanished, replaced by lethargy that sent cold fear through Angela's body. The pediatric emergency room doctor's diagnosis confirmed her worst fears: severe pneumonia requiring hospitalization. As Benjamin was settled into a hospital bed, connected to monitors and an IV delivering antibiotics, Angela faced the impossible mathematics of their situation. Her cafeteria job offered health insurance that covered most of Benjamin's medical expenses, but not all. Her position as a home health aide provided needed income, but no benefits. Missing shifts at either job meant reduced pay when expenses were simultaneously increasing. The nursing program she had painstakingly advanced through required clinical hours that couldn't be indefinitely postponed without setting her back entire semesters. "Will you be staying overnight with your son?" the nurse asked, preparing to bring in a parent cot. "Of course," Angela answered automatically, already calculating which job to call first, which supervisor might be more understanding, which absence would cause less financial damage. For 5 days, Angela barely left Benjamin's hospital room, sleeping on the narrow cot beside his bed, her hand resting near his so he would feel her presence, even while sleeping. Her laptop balanced on her knees during his naps, as she completed assignments that couldn't wait. Her phone became command central for rearranging work schedules, negotiating with instructors, and coordinating the few available supports in her life. Millie, now 80 and officially retired though still owning the diner, arranged meal deliveries to the hospital room. Eleanor Jenkins, the social worker who had remained loosely connected to Angela's journey, provided guidance on medical assistance programs that might help with uncovered expenses. These small kindnesses sustained Angela through crisis that threatened to overwhelm even her formidable resilience. On the 3rd night of Benjamin's hospitalization, while her son slept fitfully, Angela allowed herself a rare moment of complete vulnerability. In the dim light of the hospital room, surrounded by beeping monitors and the institutional smell of antiseptic, she pressed her fist against her mouth to muffle silent sobs that racked her body. The fear of losing Benjamin, the only person who truly belonged to her, her reason for persisting through impossible circumstances, combined with the practical terror of financial ruin from medical bills, created an emotional storm she could no longer contain. For 20 precious minutes, Angela surrendered to despair, allowing herself to acknowledge the crushing weight of solo parenting without safety nets. In the morning, Benjamin's fever finally broke. By day 5, he was discharged with prescriptions for antibiotics and breathing treatments. Angela added these new elements to their already complex routine, administering medications with meticulous attention to timing and dosage. The financial aftermath would take months to resolve, but Benjamin's recovery allowed Angela to focus on their next challenge, one that would ultimately change the trajectory of their lives. "Ms. Matthews, I'm Dr. Reyes, the new Director of Nursing Services." The woman extending her hand across the cafeteria counter wore an impeccably tailored suit and the confident expression of someone accustomed to authority. "Could I speak with you for a moment?" Angela wiped her hands nervously on her apron before accepting the handshake. Benjamin's illness had forced her to reschedule several clinical observations, and she feared her nursing program advancement was now in jeopardy. Instead, Dr. Sophia Reyes offered an opportunity that seemed almost too perfectly aligned with Angela's needs to be real. "The hospital is launching a work-study partnership with your nursing program," Dr. Reyes explained, her direct manner softened by genuine enthusiasm. Candidates would transition from support roles to nursing assistant positions with adjusted schedules that accommodate clinical requirements. Upon graduation, they'd receive priority consideration for RN positions here. The program offered higher pay, better benefits, tuition assistance, and most crucially, scheduling flexibility designed around education advancement. The catch? Extremely limited slots and a competitive application process requiring recommendations, essays, and interviews that would consume what little free time Angela had. "I'd like to put your name forward," Dr. Reyes continued, "if you're interested. I've noticed your work ethic, and your instructors speak highly of your clinical skills." Angela struggled to maintain professional composure as possibilities exploded in her mind. "I'm definitely interested," she managed, fighting to keep her voice steady. "Thank you for considering me." That evening, after Benjamin was asleep, Angela spread application materials across their small table, the enormity of the opportunity colliding with practical challenges of completing the requirements while maintaining their current delicate balance. For the next 3 weeks, she existed on even less sleep than usual, writing and rewriting her application essay during pre-dawn hours, preparing for interviews during bus commutes, and convincing supervisors and instructors to provide recommendations. The Tuesday morning that Angela found the acceptance letter in their mailbox became a dividing line in their story, before and after. The program wasn't a miracle cure for all their challenges, but it offered stability and advancement that had previously seemed just beyond reach. With trembling hands, she added the letter to their kitchen wall display. Benjamin's curious questions about why Mommy was crying requiring explanations about happy tears. "Does this mean you're going to be a nurse for real?" he asked, his vocabulary and comprehension impressive for his age, a testament to Angela's devotion to his development despite their circumstances. "Not yet, but I'm getting closer," she explained, lifting him for a tight hug. "And you helped me get here by being such a brave, smart boy." As Angela settled into her new role at the hospital, their lives gradually transformed. The nursing assistant position provided income that, while still modest, allowed them to move to a slightly better apartment in a safer neighborhood. Benjamin started kindergarten at a school where engaged teachers recognized and nurtured his natural intelligence and curiosity. Angela's clinical rotations, now coordinated with her work schedule, accelerated her progress toward full nursing credentials. Small luxuries entered their lives, occasionally ordering pizza instead of preparing budget-stretching casseroles, and new clothes for Benjamin rather than thrift store finds, a tablet that allowed Angela to study while commuting instead of balancing textbooks on crowded buses. These modest improvements represented extraordinary progress from the storage room, where their journey as mother and son had begun. One autumn afternoon, as they walked home from Benjamin's school, he spotted a playground they hadn't yet visited in their new neighborhood. "Can we stop, Mum? Please," he begged, bouncing with the boundless energy of a healthy 5-year-old. Angela checked her watch, calculating the time until her evening clinical shift. 20 minutes, she agreed, watching with a full heart as he raced toward the swings. As she settled on a bench, Angela noticed other mothers watching there, children with the casual ease of those for whom playgrounds were routine rather than luxury. A woman approximately her age sat down beside her, smiling as her daughter joined Benjamin on the seesaw. "Is that your son? He has your curls," the woman commented. "I'm Diane. My daughter Zoe just started kindergarten at Parkside Elementary." "Angela," she responded, the simple social interaction feeling strangely unfamiliar after years of isolation. "Benjamin's in kindergarten there too, Ms. Taylor's class." The conversation that followed, about kindergarten curriculum, neighborhood, resources, and the universal challenges of parenting, represented the first normal social interaction Angela had experienced in years. No explanations of her single motherhood required, no justifications of her educational choices needed, just two mothers discussing their children on an ordinary playground bench. As they prepared to leave the playground, Angela found herself hesitating, the simple human connection pulling at her like a forgotten hunger. "We're here most afternoons after school," Diane offered casually. "Zoe would love a play date with Benjamin sometime." The possibility of friendship, for both her and Benjamin, flickered like a distant light in Angela's vision of their future. "We'd like that," she replied, surprising herself with how much she meant it. The autumn air carried the promise of change as they walked home. Benjamin chattering excitedly about his playground adventures and his new friend Zoe. Angela listened, her mind already calculating how to carve out space in their tightly structured lives for something as seemingly indulgent as playdates and adult conversation. "Mom, look," Benjamin suddenly exclaimed, pointing toward a "For Rent" sign on a modest two-bedroom apartment building. The neighborhood was significantly better than their current location, closer to Benjamin's school, with grocery stores within walking distance, and most importantly, a reputation for safety that their current area lacked. Angela instinctively began to dismiss the idea as beyond their means, then stopped herself. Her new position, combined with careful budgeting, might actually make this possible. "Want to write down the number?" she asked Benjamin, who nodded eagerly, always thrilled to practice his newly acquired writing skills. That evening, after tucking Benjamin into bed with an extra bedtime story as reward for his exceptional behavior, Angela called the rental number. The monthly amount made her wince, significantly more than their current place, but still potentially manageable if she picked up additional weekend shifts. The location would reduce their transportation costs and put them within walking distance of Benjamin's school, eliminating one bus from their daily routine. "We could schedule a viewing tomorrow afternoon," the property manager offered. "I'd die." "Like that," Angela replied, making notes about the time and requirements. As she hung up, a wave of both excitement and anxiety washed over her. Every step forward required risk, reaching beyond their carefully managed stability toward something better. The following week brought two significant developments. First, Angela and Benjamin were approved for the new apartment, their move-in date set for the first of the following month. Second, Dr. Reyes called Angela into her office with unexpected news. "The hospital is expanding its administrative support team for the nursing department," she explained. "We need someone with both medical knowledge and administrative experience. Your background as a receptionist before Benjamin was born, combined with your nursing education progress, makes you an excellent candidate." The position offered a substantial pay increase, regular hours that aligned with school schedules, and continued tuition assistance. Most importantly, it would allow Angela to complete her nursing program without the physical toll of rotating clinical shifts. "Are you offering me the job?" Angela asked, hardly daring to believe such perfect timing. "If you want it," Dr. Reyes confirmed. "You've impressed a lot of people here, Angela, myself included." That evening, Angela treated Benjamin to a rare dinner out. Just fast food, but in his eyes a magnificent celebration. As he happily consumed chicken nuggets, Angela watched her son with quiet amazement. His resilience matched her own, his natural optimism untarnished by their struggles. Despite everything, the absences of father and grandparents, the financial limitations, the times she'd been too exhausted to play as long as he wanted, Benjamin had emerged as a joyful, intelligent child with an empathy that sometimes startled her. Just last week, he had carefully divided his small allowance to give half to a classroom collection for flood victims, explaining, "Some kids lost all their toys and books, Mom. They need help like the people helped us when I was sick." His compassion, born perhaps from their own experiences of vulnerability, filled Angela with a fierce pride that transcended all hardship they had endured. The move to their new apartment coincided with Angela's transition to her administrative role. Their new home, while still modest, represented luxury compared to previous accommodations: 2 bedrooms, functioning appliances, secure entry, and most precious of all, a small balcony where Benjamin could grow the tomato plant his kindergarten class had started from seeds. "Mom, we have so much space," Benjamin exclaimed, running from room to room on moving day. "Can I have a desk in my room for homework? A real desk like big kids have?" "We'll find one," Angela promised, already scanning online marketplaces for affordable furniture. The improved housing and job stability gradually allowed Angela to address areas of their lives previously sacrificed to more immediate needs. Benjamin joined a community center soccer program, revealing unexpected athletic talent alongside his academic abilities. Angela established a small emergency savings fund, something previously unimaginable, setting aside a portion of each paycheck for inevitable future challenges. Most significant, however, was their expanding social circle. Diane and her daughter Zoe became regular features in their lives, weekend playdates evolving into genuine friendship for both mother and son. Through this connection, Angela gradually met other parents, discovering a community of support she hadn't known was possible. Not all social interactions proved positive. At a school open house, Angela overheard two mothers discussing Benjamin with a mixture of condescension and pity. "Such a bright boy considering his circumstances," one woman remarked. "Single mother, you know. I heard she was a teenage pregnancy." "So sad," her companion agreed. "My Kevin says the boy never has the right supplies for projects, always using donated materials." Angela's initial instinct, fierce mama bear rage, gave way to something more resolute. Instead of confrontation, she channeled her energy into ensuring Benjamin never felt the sting of such judgments. She worked with his teacher to stay informed about upcoming projects, prepared materials in advance, and volunteered for classroom activities whenever her schedule permitted. Benjamin, meanwhile, continued to thrive academically despite, or perhaps because of, their unusual journey. His reading level surpassed many classmates, his natural curiosity fostered by years of Angela's deliberate educational focus during their limited time together. Teachers consistently praised his creative problem-solving and empathetic leadership among peers. "Your son has remarkable emotional intelligence," his first-grade teacher commented during a parent conference. "Yesterday, he noticed a classmate struggling with math and independently organized a small study group to help her catch up. He told me, 'Everyone needs help sometimes, Mrs. Flores. My mom says that's how communities work.'" Angela blinked back, tears at this evidence that Benjamin had absorbed not just her words but the values behind them. Despite everything they had lacked in material resources, she had somehow managed to give him something more valuable, a compassionate worldview and emotional resilience that would serve him throughout life. As Benjamin advanced through elementary school, Angela steadily progressed through her nursing program. Weekend clinical rotations, late-night study sessions, and careful coordination with Benjamin's schedule required ongoing sacrifice from both of them. Yet with each passing semester, their shared goal drew closer, marking progress on the calendar that hung prominently on their refrigerator. 3 more months until graduation, Angela would remind Benjamin during particularly challenging weeks. "Then we celebrate big time. Any requests?" "Can we go to the Museum of Science and Industry?" he would invariably respond, his passion for science growing with each grade level. "And maybe get ice cream after?" "Museum and ice cream," she would confirm, adding another check to their countdown calendar. What if Benjamin was somehow able to meet his extended family? This question began to haunt Angela as he approached his 8th birthday. Increasingly curious about the grandparents, and aunt occasionally mentioned in carefully edited stories. Though she had protected him from the full truth of their rejection, Benjamin's natural inquisitiveness led to more direct questions she struggled to answer honestly without transferring her pain to him. "Do I have a daddy like other kids?" he asked one evening as she tucked him into bed. Angela had prepared for this inevitable question, determined to offer truth without bitterness. "Yes, you do. His name is Mark. He wasn't ready to be a father. When you were born, does he know about me?" "He knows you exist," she answered carefully. "Some people aren't ready for the responsibility of being parents, even when they're grown-ups." Benjamin considered this with characteristic thoughtfulness. "That's sad for him. He's missing all the good stuff." Angela's heart swelled with love for this child who somehow found compassion where resentment would be justified. "You're right, Benji, he's missing all the good stuff." The question of grandparents proved more complicated. Angela had maintained no contact with her parents since their ultimatum, protecting herself and Benjamin from potential rejection. But as her nursing graduation approached, a significant achievement that marked the fulfillment of her promise to create a better life, she found herself wondering if time might have softened their stance. After considerable deliberation, Angela sent a brief letter to her parents' address, including a recent school photo of Benjamin and information about her upcoming graduation. She made no demands, offered no recriminations, simply extended an invitation to witness the life she had built, despite their absence. The response came 3 weeks later, her mother's handwriting on the envelope instantly recognizable despite the years that had passed. Inside, a formal note acknowledged receipt of her letter and expressed interest in establishing limited contact moving forward. The carefully worded message contained no apology, no acknowledgement of the devastating impact of their abandonment, and no genuine warmth toward the grandson whose photo they had received. Angela read the letter multiple times, searching for emotional substance beneath the formal phrasing. The calculated response, suggesting conditions and limitations rather than reconciliation, reopened wounds she had worked years to heal. After much reflection, she decided that bringing people into Benjamin's life who saw him as an obligation rather than a treasure would serve neither of them. "Did my letter get lost?" Benjamin asked weeks later, having helped address the envelope to grandparents he'd never met. "No, it didn't get lost," Angela answered truthfully. "They wrote back, but they're not ready to be the kind of grandparents you deserve. Maybe someday, but not right now." Benjamin's disappointed nod tore at her heart, but Angela remained convinced that protecting him from conditional acceptance was worth the temporary sadness. She had learned through hard experience that family was defined by love and loyalty, not merely by blood relation. The day of Angela's nursing school graduation dawned bright and clear, a perfect spring morning that seemed designed to celebrate new beginnings. Benjamin, now 8.5, wore a button-down shirt and tie they had carefully selected together at a department store, his first grown-up outfit for this special occasion. "You look handsome, mister," Angela told him as they prepared to leave their apartment. "You look beautiful, Mom," he responded with surprising gravity, "like a real nurse." The ceremony itself passed in a blur of emotions, pride in her accomplishment despite overwhelming odds, gratitude toward those who had provided critical support along the way, anticipation of the more stable future this credential would provide. But the moment that crystallized the significance of their journey came afterward, as they celebrated with a small group that constituted their chosen family. Millie, now 84, and using a walker but still sharp-witted, had made the trip from her retirement community. Diane and Zoe attended, bringing a homemade cake decorated with careful if somewhat lopsided icing. Dr. Reyes made an appearance, presenting Angela with a job offer for a nursing position in the hospital's pediatric unit, her preferred specialty. Eleanor Jenkins, the social worker whose intervention had provided critical support during Benjamin's infancy, completed their small celebration circle. "Speech," Millie demanded, as they gathered around a picnic table in the park near the graduation venue. "I don't have a speech prepared," Angela protested, embarrassed by the attention. "I do," Benjamin announced unexpectedly, pulling a folded paper from his pocket. With serious concentration, he unfolded his note and cleared his throat theatrically. "My mom is the bravest person in the world," he began, reading carefully from his lined school paper. "When I was a baby, she had no help, but she kept us safe. Anyway, she worked really hard and went to school at night and never complained even when she was tired. Now she's a real nurse and can help sick people get better. I'm really proud to be her son." The simple words, delivered with such earnest pride, demolished any composure Angela had maintained through the formal ceremony. As tears streamed unchecked down her face, she gathered Benjamin into a fierce hug, wondering how the universe had blessed her with this extraordinary child who found only achievement where others might see struggle, only strength where others might see hardship. "Thank you, Benji," she whispered against his curls. "Everything I've done has been for you." "I know," he replied with the simple confidence of a child who has always been loved. "And now we both get to help people, you as a nurse and me as a scientist when I grow up." Their small gathering of supporters exchanged knowing glances over the heads of mother and son, witnesses to a love story more powerful than any romance, built through sacrifice and persistence against formidable odds. Later that evening, as Benjamin slept surrounded by graduation celebration balloons, Angela stood on their small balcony, watching the city lights flicker against the darkening sky. The nursing diploma she had pursued for so long rested on their kitchen table, tangible evidence of a promise kept. 8 years earlier, standing in the rain with a single suitcase and a future that seemed impossibly bleak, she had vowed to give her unborn child everything she had never had. Looking back now, Angela realized she had given Benjamin something her own parents had failed to provide her: unconditional love that persisted through hardship, faith in his inherent worth regardless of circumstances, and modeling of resilience. That would serve him throughout life. They still faced challenges. Finances remained tight, though significantly improved. Benjamin would eventually need more answers about his father and extended family than she had yet provided. Her career would demand ongoing education and adjustment, but the desperate uncertainty that had characterized their early years together had been replaced by hard-earned stability and cautious optimism. "We did it, Benji," Angela whispered toward his bedroom door, "and we're just getting started." Have you ever known someone who faced overwhelming odds as a single parent, but persevered anyway? Please share your thoughts in the comments. The pediatric nursing unit at Lakeside Memorial Hospital hummed with the organized chaos familiar to healthcare professionals everywhere. Monitors beeped, computer keyboards clicked, and the controlled voices of medical staff created a reassuring soundtrack of competence and care. Among the nurses moving efficiently through the unit, Angela Matthews had found her professional home. 2 years into her nursing career, Angela had developed a reputation for exceptional patient care, particularly with frightened children and anxious parents. Her colleagues often marveled at her seemingly infinite reserves of patience and her ability to connect with even the most difficult patients. What they didn't realize was that her skill had been honed through years of balancing impossible demands with limited resources. Her single motherhood had become her greatest professional asset. "Nurse Matthews, could you take the new admission in 304? The charge nurse called across the station. 10-year-old male, severe asthma exacerbation. Parents are pretty worked up." Angela nodded, already reviewing the electronic chart appearing on her screen. The familiar symptoms and treatment protocols scrolled before her eyes, but her focus remained on the human elements she would soon encounter. A frightened child struggling to breathe, parents facing the particular helplessness that comes with watching your child suffer. "Hi there," she greeted softly, entering the room where a dark-haired boy sat upright in bed, an oxygen mask covering his face, his narrow chest visibly working with each labored breath. His parents hovered nearby, the mother clutching her son's hand, the father standing rigidly beside the bed with the hyper-vigilant expression Angela had seen countless times. "I'm Angela, and I'll be Ethan's nurse today," she continued, making eye contact with the boy first, acknowledging him as a person rather than a condition, before addressing his parents. "I see Dr. Patel has already ordered treatments. Let's get those started right away." As she connected the nebulizer and explained each step of treatment, Angela noted the mother's wedding ring, the father's protective stance, the family photos already displayed on the bedside table, all normal. Parental responses to a child's hospitalization. These small details, invisible to less observant eyes, sometimes triggered a momentary ache in her chest. Awareness of what Benjamin had missed in not having a father who stayed, grandparents who cherished him, extended family who celebrated his milestones. "Nurse Matthews," the mother asked hesitantly as Angela adjusted Ethan's medication. "He's had asthma since he was 3, but this is the worst episode we've ever seen. I'm just so worried." Angela paused, meeting the woman's anxious gaze directly. "That's completely understandable. Watching your child struggle to breathe is terrifying, but Ethan's oxygen levels are already improving with the first treatment, and Dr. Patel has an excellent plan in place. I'll be checking on him frequently, and I'm right down the hall if you need anything at all." The relief that washed over both parents' faces came from more than her medical reassurance. It was recognition, being truly seen in their fear rather than dismissed or judged for it. Angela had learned through her own experiences that acknowledgement of emotions often provided more comfort than technical explanations alone. Later that afternoon, as she documented Ethan's improving condition in the electronic medical record, Dr. Sophia Reyes appeared beside her at the nurses' station. The pediatric department head is forming a committee to revise our family support protocols, Dr. Reyes explained, without preamble, her direct manner unchanged from when she'd first offered Angela the work-study opportunity years earlier. I've recommended you as the nursing representative. Angela looked up in surprise. Me? There are nurses with much more experience on this unit. Experience isn't what this committee needs, Dr. Reyes replied. It needs perspective, the ability to see healthcare through the eyes of families in crisis. You have that in abundance, Angela. The invitation represented professional recognition beyond anything Angela had anticipated so early in her nursing career. Committee participation would mean additional responsibilities, but also influence over policies affecting countless families navigating the healthcare system, families like hers and Benjamin's during his pneumonia hospitalization years earlier. I'd be honored, she responded, already mentally reorganizing her schedule to accommodate this new opportunity. That evening, as she prepared dinner in their modest but comfortable apartment, Angela shared the news with Benjamin, now an articulate 10-year-old whose interests increasingly focused on science and medicine. Does this mean you'll help make rules for the hospital? He asked, setting out plates for their meal with the automatic helpfulness that had become second nature in their small family unit. Not exactly rules, Angela clarified. More like guidelines for how we can better support families when their children are sick. Remember when you were in the hospital with pneumonia? How scary that was for both of us. Benjamin nodded seriously. You slept on that uncomfortable chair bed thing every night. Right. Well, this committee will look at everything from those sleeping accommodations to how we explain medical procedures to children of different ages. The goal is to make difficult situations a little easier for families. Benjamin considered this while serving himself salad, his vegetable consumption having increased dramatically after their recent viewing of a documentary on nutrition. That's important work, he concluded with characteristic certainty. You'll be good at it because you understand both sides, being a nurse and being a mom. His simple assessment pierced straight to the truth, as Benjamin's observations often did. Angela's dual perspective, healthcare provider and parent who had navigated the system without support, offered insights unavailable to most of her colleagues. How was your day? She asked, shifting the conversation to Benjamin's world. Did you get your science project assignment? His face lit up with enthusiasm as he described the upcoming Earth Science Unit, complete with plans for a model demonstrating tectonic plate movement. Angela listened with genuine interest, asking questions. That prompted further elaboration. These dinner conversations had become cherished rituals in their household, opportunities to connect beyond the logistics of daily schedules and responsibilities. As Benjamin cleared their plates afterward, another routine they shared, Angela checked the calendar hanging prominently on their refrigerator. Benjamin's upcoming parent-teacher conference, her committee orientation meeting, soccer practice schedule, and bill due dates created a complex choreography that required constant attention. Mom, Benjamin's voice interrupted her mental calculations. Can I invite Trevor over this weekend? His mom said he could come Saturday if it's okay with you. The simple request represented yet another marker of their evolving circumstances. Benjamin's social circle had expanded significantly since starting at his new school last year, a development Angela encouraged despite the logistical complications of playdates and social events. His friendship with Trevor Garcia, a bright, science-minded classmate, had quickly become particularly important to him. Sure, she agreed, mentally rearranging Saturday plans to accommodate a visitor. We could take you both to the Science Center if you want. The new space exhibition opens this weekend. Benjamin's delighted reaction confirmed she had made the right decision, despite the admission fees that would strain their carefully balanced budget. Some experiences, like watching her son explore the world alongside a friend who shared his interests, justified financial stretching. Later that night, after Benjamin had gone to bed, Angela opened her laptop to begin researching family support protocols at other hospitals in preparation for her committee assignment. As she created detailed notes, a notification appeared in her email inbox, the monthly parent newsletter from Benjamin's school. Scanning the message with the efficiency of someone accustomed to processing information quickly, Angela paused. At an announcement about the upcoming science competition, students in grades 4 to 6 were invited to submit projects for consideration, with district winners advancing to a regional competition held at Northwestern University. The opportunity would perfectly align with Benjamin's growing interest in environmental science. After forwarding the information to her phone to share with Benjamin in the morning, Angela returned to her research, the quiet apartment filled only with the soft sound of typing. This was her second shift, the work completed after Benjamin slept, invisible to him but essential to their collective progress. Around midnight, she closed her laptop and performed her nightly ritual. Checking that doors were locked, Benjamin's lunch was prepared for the following day, and her nursing scrubs were ready. Standing in the doorway of her son's bedroom, Angela watched his peaceful sleeping form for a moment, still marveling at the miracle of his existence and the extraordinary journey they had shared. "Sweet dreams, scientist," she whispered, before retiring to her own room. The complex balancing act of their lives continued to require vigilance and sacrifice, but with each passing year, future possibilities expanded like horizon lines revealed as one climbs a difficult mountain. Benjamin's academic achievements opened doors to educational opportunities. Angela's nursing career provided increasing financial stability and professional satisfaction. Together, they continued building something neither could have created alone, a family defined not by traditional structure, but by unconditional love and mutual support. Angela's promotion to senior pediatric nurse came with both recognition and increased responsibility. The commendation in her personnel file noted exceptional patient care, innovative contributions to family support protocols, and demonstrated leadership among nursing staff. The accompanying salary increase, while modest by some standards, represented significant progress from her early days of struggling to afford basic necessities. "Does this mean we can get a car?" Benjamin asked when she shared the news, his practical question reflecting the transportation challenges that had shaped his childhood experiences. "Not immediately," Angela explained, pulling out their budget notebook, a system she had established to include Benjamin in financial decision-making as he grew older. "But it moves us closer to that goal. For now, we'll continue saving and using public transportation." Benjamin nodded, unsurprised by the measured response. At 11, he understood financial limitations better than most adults, having grown up with transparent discussions about money management. Rather than sheltering him from economic realities, Angela had chosen to make him an age-appropriate partner in their financial journey, believing the skills would serve him throughout life. "Saving is smart," he agreed, repeating one of their family mantras. "Things that matter take time." The phrase had become shorthand for their approach to life's challenges, acknowledging constraints while maintaining determined progress toward goals. Angela had coined it during their early years together, using the simple concept to explain everything, from educational timelines to housing improvements to Benjamin's questions about when they might afford certain luxuries. As Benjamin entered middle school, his academic abilities continued to distinguish him among peers. His sixth-grade science project examining urban water quality earned not only top marks, but also recognition from the district superintendent. His teachers consistently noted his unusual combination of intellectual curiosity and emotional maturity, qualities Angela recognized as partly forged through their unique life circumstances. "Benjamin demonstrates remarkable resilience and initiative," his homeroom teacher commented during their fall conference. "When challenges arise, he approaches them methodically, rather than becoming discouraged. It's quite unusual for his age group." Angela nodded, recognizing the description as accurately reflecting their shared values. "We talk a lot about problem-solving at home," she explained, identifying what we can control versus what we can't. The teacher smiled with genuine appreciation. "Whatever you're doing, it's working. Benjamin is thriving academically, but more importantly, he shows exceptional emotional intelligence. He's often the first to offer help to struggling classmates or to mediate conflicts among peers." "He's a good kid," Angela replied simply, pride warming her voice. "He certainly is," the teacher agreed. "And that reflects excellent parenting, especially considering you've done it solo. Not many single parents manage to balance work demands with such attentive child-rearing." The casual observation, intended as a compliment, touched a complex area in Angela's emotional landscape. While she had accepted long ago that Benjamin's father would never be part of their lives, she remained acutely aware of the traditional family experiences her son had missed. No father-son camping trips, no paternal guidance through boyhood's challenges, no extended family gatherings during holidays. All absences she could acknowledge, but never fully compensate for despite her best efforts. That evening, as they prepared dinner together, Benjamin now skilled enough to handle more complex cooking tasks, Angela noticed her son's unusual quietness. "Everything okay, Benji? You're not usually this silent when making pasta." He looked up from the tomatoes he was carefully dicing, his expression thoughtful. "Mom, Trevor's dad is coaching the Science Olympiad team this year. He asked if I wanted to join." "That sounds perfect for you," Angela encouraged, waiting for the rest of whatever was clearly weighing on his mind. Benjamin set down his knife, organizing his thoughts in the deliberate way that reminded Angela so much of herself. "The thing is, some of the meetings are on Saturday mornings when you have shifts at the hospital, and there's a weekend competition in Wisconsin later this year that would need a parent chaperone." The request beneath his statement was clear, highlighting once again the limitations of their family structure. Angela's work schedule, while more consistent than in previous years, still included weekend shifts that created logistical challenges for Benjamin's expanding activities. "Let's figure it out," she said firmly, refusing to let their circumstances limit his opportunities. "I can talk to Diane about driving you to Saturday meetings when I'm working, and for the competition, I'll request that weekend off well in advance. This is important, Benji." Relief washed over his expression. "Thanks. Mom, I really want to join the team. Trevor says his dad has awesome experiments planned." The conversation shifted to lighter topics, but later that night, Angela found herself reflecting on the persistent challenges of single parenthood despite their improved circumstances. Each new phase of Benjamin's development brought different demands requiring creative solutions and additional support networks. The truth she had learned through experience was that doing it all was impossible. Successful single parenting required strategic deployment of limited resources and willingness to accept help when offered. This reality was underscored the following month when Benjamin developed influenza despite vaccination, requiring Angela to miss 3 consecutive workdays during a critical staffing shortage at the hospital. Dr. Reyes had been understanding, but candid about the impact on the unit, adding another layer of guilt to Angela's already complicated emotional response to Benjamin's illness. "You should know," Dr. Reyes added during their conversation, "that the head nursing position for pediatric outpatient services will be posted next month. The hours are primarily weekdays, with significantly reduced weekend requirements. I think you should consider applying." The suggestion offered potential resolution to the exact challenge Angela had been grappling with: how to balance her professional responsibilities with Benjamin's increasingly complex schedule and needs. Outpatient services would mean more predictable hours aligned with school schedules, potentially eliminating many of the conflicts that required complicated arrangements. "Do you think I'd be considered seriously?" Angela asked, aware that such positions typically went to nurses with more years of experience. "Your clinical skills are excellent, your committee work has demonstrated leadership capacity, and your communication abilities are exceptional," Dr. Reyes responded with characteristic directness. "Experience matters, but so does perspective. The department could benefit from your insights into family-centered care." As Benjamin recovered from his illness and returned to school, Angela began quietly preparing for the application process, updating her professional portfolio, researching the specific requirements of outpatient services, and reaching out to colleagues with relevant experience. The position represented not just professional advancement, but potential resolution to the work-life balance challenges that had persisted despite their progress. "You're getting another promotion?" Benjamin asked when she explained the opportunity during one of their weekend breakfast conversations, a ritual they maintained whenever her schedule allowed. "I'm applying for one," Angela clarified. "It's competitive and there's no guarantee I'll be selected. But if it happens, I'd work mostly when you're in school, with very few weekend shifts." Benjamin's eyes widened with recognition of what this would mean for their daily lives. "So you could come to all my science meets and be home for dinner every night?" "Most nights," she confirmed. "It would make a lot of things easier for us." Another powerful narrative hook keeps you on the edge of your seat as the story approaches its pivotal turning point. Would Angela get the promotion that could finally balance her work and family responsibilities? What new challenges await mother and son as Benjamin approaches his teenage years? The tension builds with each passing scene. "Nervous?" Dr. Reyes asked, finding Angela reviewing patient files one final time before her interview for the outpatient nursing director position. "Trying not to be," Angela admitted with a small smile. "I keep reminding myself that the worst outcome is maintaining my current position, which I already enjoy." "Good perspective," the older woman nodded approvingly, "though between us, the selection committee would be foolish not to choose you. Your application materials were exceptionally strong." The interview process proved more rigorous than Angela had anticipated. 3 rounds of questions from administrators, physicians, and current nursing staff, followed by a presentation on her vision for family-centered outpatient care. Drawing on both her professional experience and personal journey, Angela articulated a comprehensive approach that balanced clinical excellence with compassionate support for families navigating complex healthcare challenges. "Your emphasis on flexible scheduling for families with transportation limitations shows particular insight," noted the chief medical officer during final discussions. "What inspired that specific recommendation?" Angela paused, considering how much of her personal story to share in this professional context. "During my son's childhood, we relied exclusively on public transportation. I have experienced firsthand how traditional appointment scheduling can create unnecessary hardships for families already managing significant stress." The simple explanation, delivered without self-pity or dramatization, resonated with several committee members who exchanged thoughtful glances. Her willingness to translate personal experience into systemic improvement exemplified exactly the leadership perspective the department sought to cultivate. 2 weeks later, the formal offer arrived via email: pediatric outpatient nursing director with expanded responsibilities, increased compensation, and the daytime schedule that would transform their family logistics. Angela sat at their kitchen table, staring at the screen with a mixture of pride and disbelief, the culmination of years of determined progress captured in a single message. When Benjamin arrived home from soccer practice that afternoon, she was waiting with his favorite celebratory treat, chocolate milkshakes from the diner near their apartment. "What's the special occasion?" he asked, dropping his backpack and immediately reaching for the frosty cup. "I got the position," Angela announced, unable to contain her smile. "Starting next month, I'll be working Monday through Friday, primarily during school hours." Benjamin's reaction, a whoop of delight followed by a spontaneous hug that nearly toppled both milkshakes, confirmed the significance of this development in their family life. The new schedule would eliminate countless complications that had become so routine they hardly acknowledged them anymore. The elaborate childcare arrangements during weekend shifts, the rushed transitions between her workday and his after-school activities, the missed school events that neither mentioned but both regretted. "This calls for something better than milkshakes," Benjamin declared. "We should go out for real dinner, the Italian place on Kingston Street." The suggested restaurant, a family-owned establishment they reserved for truly special occasions, underscored his understanding of the moment's importance. "Italian it is," Angela agreed, already calculating the budget adjustments this splurge would require, but deciding some celebrations justified breaking routine frugality. Over pasta that evening, Benjamin surprised her with unexpected insight into their shared journey. "Mom, remember when I was little and you used to tell me that things that matter take time?" Angela nodded, warmed by his recall of their family. "Philosophy. I think this is what you meant," he continued thoughtfully. All those years of school and working really hard, it was leading to this, where things get easier for both of us. His perception, recognizing the deliberate, incremental progress that had characterized their lives, touched Angela deeply. That's exactly what I meant, Benji. Small steps eventually cover long distances. I'm really proud of you, he said, with the straightforward sincerity of early adolescence, not yet self-conscious about expressing such sentiments, not just for the promotion, for everything, for being my mum. The simple declaration carried more validation than any professional recognition Angela had received. In Benjamin's eyes, the perspective that mattered most to her, their unconventional, family journey represented not deprivation, but achievement, not absence, but presence. As Benjamin's 12th birthday approached that spring, his interests continued expanding beyond academics into competitive soccer and photography, the latter inspired by a school photography club that recognized his unusual eye for composition. Angela supported these explorations while carefully managing the associated costs, researching used equipment options, and arranging carpools with other parents to distribute transportation responsibilities. Their improving financial circumstances allowed for modest lifestyle enhancements, occasional restaurant meals, a reliable laptop for Benjamin's increasingly complex school projects, and most significantly, a reliable used car that transformed their daily logistics. The vehicle, a 10-year-old sedan with excellent safety ratings but cosmetic imperfections that reduced its price, became a treasured family asset, eliminating countless hours previously spent navigating public transportation schedules. Freedom, Benjamin declared dramatically the first time they drove to the grocery store, rather than carrying bags home on the bus. Sweet vehicular freedom. The spring also brought unexpected correspondence, a letter from Angela's sister Bethany, making contact for the first time in nearly 12 years. The carefully worded message explained that she had recently moved to Chicago for work and would like to meet if Angela was willing. Unlike their parents' cold response years earlier, Bethany's letter contained explicit acknowledgement of past failures. I've regretted my silence when our parents made their choice. I was wrong not to support you, and I've carried that regret for years. Angela read the letter multiple times, emotions cycling between wariness, curiosity, and cautious hope. Her initial instinct was protective, skepticism about allowing anyone from her estranged family into Benjamin's life after so many years of absence. Yet the letter's genuine tone suggested something Angela valued deeply: growth and the courage to acknowledge past mistakes. After careful consideration and consultation with a therapist, she had begun seeing to navigate complex family dynamics. Angela arranged to meet Bethany alone before making any decisions about introducing her to Benjamin. People can change, her therapist had advised, but verification before trust is perfectly reasonable given your history. The sisters' reunion at a neutral coffee shop near Angela's workplace proved both awkward and cathartic. 12 years had transformed Bethany from the uncertain college sophomore who had watched silently during family confrontation into a poised professional woman with her own regrets and questions. I should have reached out years ago, Bethany admitted, stirring her coffee nervously. After college, I started questioning how our parents had handled everything, but by then I didn't know how to find you. Their conversation progressed cautiously at first, navigating the vast gap of unshared experiences between them. Angela provided carefully edited highlights of her journey with Benjamin, while Bethany shared her own path, completing law school, working briefly in their hometown, before accepting a position with a Chicago firm specializing in family advocacy. The irony isn't lost on me, Bethany noted with a sad smile. I help families navigate legal crises while having failed my own sister during hers. By their meeting's end, Angela had made a measured decision. She would introduce Bethany to Benjamin, but with clear boundaries establishing that this connection created no automatic rights to his time or affection. Trust would need to be earned through consistent presence and respect for their established family unit. Benjamin, with characteristic openness, welcomed the notion of meeting his aunt. More family sounds good, he said simply when Angela explained the situation. especially if she's nice like you." The relationship developed gradually over subsequent months, with Bethany joining them occasionally for weekend outings or Benjamin's soccer games. She proved to be a thoughtful presence, neither attempting to compensate for lost years with excessive gifts, nor pretending the past estrangement hadn't occurred. Instead, she engaged authentically with Benjamin's interests and respected Angela's authority as his parent. "He's remarkable," Bethany commented after watching Benjamin organize his teammates during a particularly challenging match. "His leadership skills, his confidence. You've done an incredible job, Angela." "We figured things out together," Angela responded. The simple acknowledgement insufficient to capture their extraordinary journey, but accurately reflecting its collaborative nature. As Benjamin approached his 13th birthday, he began asking more specific questions about his father, queries that evolved beyond the simplified explanations that had sufficed during childhood. Angela had always maintained a policy of age-appropriate honesty, believing that withholding information would eventually create greater harm than difficult truths delivered with sensitivity. "I think I'd like to know what he looks like," Benjamin said one evening as they cleared dinner dishes together. "My father, I mean." The request, delivered casually but clearly long considered, caught Angela momentarily off guard. She had a single photograph, Mark and herself at a college formal event, preserved from the relationship that had produced Benjamin. Though physical resemblance between father and son was unmistakable, Angela had kept the image stored away, uncertain when or whether sharing it would serve Benjamin's emotional well-being. "I have a picture," she acknowledged. "Are you sure you want to see it now?" Benjamin nodded with the quiet certainty that characterized his most important decisions. "I'm old enough, and it feels weird not knowing." That evening they sat together on their living room sofa as Angela retrieved the photograph from its storage place in her bedroom closet. Benjamin studied it intently, his expression thoughtful rather than emotional. "I have his eyes," he observed after several moments. "And maybe his chin." "Yes," Angela confirmed. "And his aptitude for science. He was pre-med when we were together." "Did he ever become a doctor?" Benjamin asked, the question revealing curiosity about not just appearance but life trajectory. Angela hesitated, unsure how much information would satisfy legitimate curiosity versus creating unnecessary hurt. "As far as I know, yes. He was accepted to medical school before you were born." Benjamin continued studying the photograph, processing this fragmented connection to his genetic heritage. "Do you think he ever wonders about me?" The question, inevitable yet heartbreaking, deserved more than platitudes. "I don't know, Benji, I hope so, but what matters most is that I've never had a single moment's doubt or regret about having you in my life, not 1 second. Their conversation continued into the evening, Benjamin asking thoughtful questions about his father's personality, interests, and family background. Angela provided honest answers while maintaining appropriate boundaries around her own emotional experience of abandonment. The discussion represented another milestone in their evolving relationship, Benjamin's transition toward adulthood, requiring more complete understanding of his origins. That summer, as Benjamin prepared to enter 8th grade, Angela found herself increasingly aware of educational decisions looming on the horizon. Their neighborhood school offered adequate but not exceptional high school programming, while Chicago's selective enrollment schools provided advanced curriculum better aligned with Benjamin's academic capabilities. "These schools are extremely competitive," Benjamin's guidance counselor explained, during a meeting Angela had requested to discuss options. "Admission depends on test scores, grades, and usually an entrance exam. Benjamin's academic record puts him in consideration, but preparation would improve his chances significantly." The recommendation led to another careful budgetary analysis. Test preparation programs weren't prohibitively expensive, but would require additional work hours or elimination of other expenses. After reviewing options with Benjamin, who expressed strong interest in the advanced science curriculum offered by selective schools, Angela registered him for weekend test preparation sessions and arranged additional tutoring through a community program offering reduced rates for single-parent households. More studying? Benjamin groaned good-naturedly when the materials arrived. My summer is disappearing into test prep oblivion. Consider it investment in future opportunities, Angela replied, their familiar framing of short-term sacrifice for long-term gain. Besides, we're still doing our weekend lake trips. These excursions to Lake Michigan's public beaches had become cherished family tradition, inexpensive outings that provided respite from urban intensity and space for both relaxation and conversation. During one such trip, as they watched sunset paint the water in spectacular colors, Benjamin returned to the topic of his future education with unexpected clarity. I think I want to be a doctor, he said, the declaration carrying the weight of careful consideration rather than casual aspiration. Maybe pediatrics or research medicine, something that helps people understand how their bodies work and how to fix problems. Angela felt momentary vertigo at the ambition's echo of her own earlier dreams, and Mark's pursued path, creating an unintended continuation of interrupted possibility. More pragmatically, she recognized the financial implications of supporting such aspirations. Undergraduate education followed by medical school represented formidable expense beyond anything they had yet confronted. Rather than voicing these concerns and potentially dampening his enthusiasm, Angela focused on the significance of his developing clarity. You'd be excellent at medicine. You have both the intelligence for the science and the empathy for patient care. Would it bother you, Benjamin asked perceptively, if I followed the same path he did? The question revealed his awareness of complexities she sometimes forgot he could perceive. Not at all, Angela assured him truthfully. Your choices should reflect your interests and talents, not reactions to history you didn't create. Their conversation shifted to practical considerations. What subjects warranted additional focus? Which selective enrollment schools offered strongest science programs? Whether medical research might interest him more than clinical practice. The detailed discussion, filled with mutual respect and collaborative problem-solving, exemplified their extraordinary partnership. Mother and son navigating life's challenges with shared purpose that transcended traditional parent-child dynamics. Fall brought college recruitment letters addressed to Benjamin from universities impressed by his academic record and standardized test performance. Though high school remained a year away, these early communications heightened Angela's awareness of accelerating timelines and expanding possibilities that would soon transform their carefully structured existence. The selective enrollment high school application process consumed significant family energy during Benjamin's 8th grade year. His exemplary grades and test scores placed him in strong position, but competition for limited slots created inevitable anxiety. Angela maintained outward confidence while privately researching alternative options should their preferred placements not materialize. On a bright April morning, Benjamin burst into their apartment waving an envelope bearing the distinctive logo of Walter Payton College Prep, among Chicago's most prestigious public high schools, renowned for its science curriculum and college placement record. I got in, he shouted, thrusting the acceptance letter toward Angela. First choice, Mom, I actually got in. The achievement, product of Benjamin's natural abilities enhanced by years of deliberate academic focus, represented a turning point in their journey. Access to this educational environment would connect Benjamin with peers sharing his intellectual curiosity and teachers capable of challenging his capabilities fully. More significantly, it positioned him precisely where Angela had determined he should be all those years ago, standing in the rain with her single suitcase, on path toward possibilities limited only by his potential rather than their circumstances. I never doubted you would, she said truthfully, embracing him with fierce pride. This is just the beginning, Benji. That evening, after Benjamin had called everyone in their small circle with his news, Diane and Zoe, Aunt Bethany, his soccer coach, and even Millie at her retirement community, Angela found him sitting quietly on their small balcony, contemplative amid celebration. Everything okay? She asked, joining him in the adjoining chair. I was just thinking about everything that led to this moment, he replied, his expression thoughtful beyond his 13 years. If things had been easier, if my father had stayed, If your parents had supported you, would we still be here exactly like this? Would I be the same person? The philosophical question revealed both maturity and his ongoing processing of their unconventional family story. Angela considered carefully before responding, recognizing the significance of her answer to his developing self-concept. "I don't think life works that way," she said finally. "We're shaped by both challenges and supports, by absences and presences. Would you be exactly the same person? Probably not. But your essential qualities, your intelligence, your compassion, your determination, those came with you. The circumstances just gave them particular form." Benjamin nodded slowly, absorbing her perspective. "I used to wish things had been different, that we had more family, more money, an easier path, but lately I've been thinking that the hard parts actually helped me in some ways. I don't take things for granted like some of my friends do." "That's true," Angela agreed, "though I would have spared you some of those lessons if I could have." "I know," he smiled, reaching to squeeze her hand briefly. "But we did pretty well figuring it out, didn't we?" "We did," she confirmed, the simple affirmation encompassing years of shared struggle and triumph. "And we'll keep figuring out whatever comes next." Benjamin's high school years brought accelerated academic development alongside typical adolescent social exploration. The prestigious school environment connected him with intellectually ambitious peers who expanded his horizons, while challenging him to refine his thinking. Scientifically gifted classmates pushed his technical understanding to new levels, while the school's diverse student body broadened his cultural awareness beyond their relatively homogeneous neighborhood. Angela watched this expansion with mingled pride and wistfulness, recognizing the necessary evolution of their relationship as Benjamin developed increasing independence. Their close partnership, forged through years of mutual reliance, gradually transformed into something equally meaningful but appropriately different. Benjamin needed her guidance less frequently, but their conversations deepened, addressing more complex ethical questions and future possibilities. His involvement with the school's biomedical research club crystallized his interest in medical science, particularly genetics and molecular biology. Through a competitive summer internship program at Northwestern University, Benjamin gained laboratory experience alongside undergraduate researchers, further confirming his career aspirations. "Did you know they're using CRISPR technology to target specific genetic mutations?" he asked excitedly, after one particularly inspiring lab session. "The applications for treating inherited diseases are incredible." Angela listened with genuine interest, continually educating herself about his evolving passions to maintain meaningful connection as his knowledge in specialized areas surpassed her own. Their dinner conversations frequently resembled academic seminars, with Benjamin enthusiastically explaining complex concepts, while Angela asked thoughtful questions that helped him articulate and refine his understanding. College planning began in earnest during Benjamin's sophomore year, with guidance counselors emphasizing his exceptional academic profile and potential for selective university admission. Angela approached this process with characteristic thoroughness, researching scholarship opportunities, attending financial aid workshops, and establishing a dedicated college savings account despite its modest balance. "These application fees add up quickly," she noted while reviewing the growing list of universities Benjamin was considering. "We should be strategic about where you apply." "I've been researching that," Benjamin responded, producing a spreadsheet, with detailed analysis of each institution's science programs, acceptance rates, and financial aid packages. "These highlighted ones offer merit scholarships I might qualify for based on test scores and GPA." His methodical approach, prioritizing both academic quality and financial feasibility, reflected values instilled through their family experience. Unlike many of his privileged classmates who discussed college options with minimal consideration of cost, Benjamin automatically incorporated practical constraints into his planning process. During his junior year, Benjamin's academic excellence and compelling personal story attracted attention from university recruiters seeking to diversify their student populations. His essay about the unconventional education he had received through witnessing his mother's nursing career, while navigating socio-economic challenges, earned particular praise from admissions officers who read early drafts. "Your perspective is unique," his college counselor emphasized. "Top universities are looking for students who bring different life experiences to their campuses. Your academic credentials get you considered, but your personal journey makes you memorable." As application season approached during Benjamin's senior year, their apartment transformed into a command center for the complex process. Essay drafts covered the kitchen table, recommendation letters were tracked on calendars, and financial aid forms required meticulous attention. Angela took particular care with scholarship applications, recognizing their critical importance to making prestigious universities financially viable. "Stanford's financial aid is actually more generous than some state schools if we qualify," Benjamin explained, reviewing research he had conducted on scholarship availability. "They meet full demonstrated need for families below certain income thresholds." Angela nodded, both impressed by his research and conscious of the emotional complexities behind such discussions. While their financial circumstances had improved dramatically from Benjamin's early childhood, college costs remained daunting, especially for elite institutions. The careful balance between encouraging Benjamin's highest aspirations and maintaining realistic expectations required constant calibration. In December of his senior year, as college application deadlines loomed, Benjamin received unexpected news that temporarily reshaped their planning discussions. His advanced placement biology teacher nominated him for a prestigious National Science Scholarship, covering full tuition at select universities for students planning medical research careers. Only 20 students nationwide receive this award annually, his teacher explained when sharing the nomination. "The selection process is incredibly competitive, but Benjamin's research project on gene editing techniques makes him a strong candidate." The possibility, remote but tantalizing, of full financial support added another layer to already complex decision-making. Early admission notices began arriving in mid-December, bringing a series of acceptances that confirmed Benjamin's academic standing among top applicants nationwide. His thoughtful essays and exceptional recommendations had clearly resonated with admissions committees, resulting in invitations from universities that had seemed aspirational just months earlier. On a snowy January evening, as they reviewed the growing collection of acceptance packets spread across their living room floor, Benjamin voiced the question that had gradually taken shape throughout the process. "Would you be okay if I went somewhere far away for college? Not that I've decided yet, but some of these schools are across the country." The inquiry, delivered with characteristic sensitivity to her feelings, touched the complex emotional territory Angela had been privately navigating. Their extraordinary closeness, while never restrictive, had been strengthened by physical proximity and daily interaction. Geographic separation would fundamentally alter their relationship in ways neither could fully anticipate. "I want you to choose the school that best fits your goals," she answered honestly. "Distance shouldn't be the deciding factor. We'll figure out ways to stay connected, just like we've figured out everything else." Benjamin studied her expression, searching for unspoken concerns behind her supportive words. "It would be weird not seeing you every day," he admitted. "We've never been apart for more than a few days." "It would definitely take adjustment," Angela acknowledged. "But this is exactly what we've been working toward all these years, creating opportunities for you to pursue your dreams wherever they lead." As winter mellowed into spring, their college discussions acquired greater urgency, with deposit deadlines approaching. Benjamin had narrowed his options to 3 universities, offering strong programs in his intended major, molecular biology with pre-medical focus. All 3 had provided financial aid packages that, while requiring loans, seemed manageable with careful planning. The science scholarship announcement was scheduled for April 15th, potentially reshaping their decisions if Benjamin were among the recipients. As the date approached, he maintained outward calm, while Angela noticed subtle signs of his heightened anticipation, checking email with increased frequency, mentioning the scholarship in conversation, researching previous winners' profiles. On the appointed morning, Benjamin's phone chimed with an incoming email while they prepared breakfast before school. His hand trembled slightly as he opened the message, eyes scanning the text with controlled hope. "Mom," he said quietly, looking up with an expression she couldn't immediately interpret. "I got it. The full scholarship. They selected me." For a moment, neither spoke, the magnitude of the announcement requiring time to fully absorb. The scholarship not only covered complete tuition and fees at several elite universities, but also provided additional funding for research experiences and graduate school preparation. Financial constraints that had shadowed their college planning suddenly evaporated, leaving unprecedented freedom of choice. "Benjamin, that's extraordinary," Angela finally managed, moving to embrace him. "I'm so proud of you." As the news settled between them, its implications extended beyond immediate financial relief. This recognition, based purely on Benjamin's scientific aptitude and potential contribution to medical research, represented validation of their journey's purpose. The child, once rejected by his father and extended family, had earned national recognition for exceptional promise, his future now secured by his own merit rather than circumstance. The scholarship announcement transformed their final college decision process, removing financial considerations and allowing focus on academic fit and research opportunities. After careful evaluation of programs and campus visits, Benjamin selected Stanford University, renowned for both undergraduate science education and medical research facilities. "California is pretty far," he acknowledged when sharing his final decision, "but their molecular biology program is exactly what I want, and the research opportunities with leading geneticists are incredible." "Then Stanford it is," Angela confirmed, mentally calculating the airfare costs for visits while keeping her expression supportive. "We'll make it work." Benjamin's high school graduation ceremony in early June brought together their small but significant support network. Diane and Zoe attended with enthusiastic pride, having remained integral to their lives throughout Benjamin's childhood. Aunt Bethany brought flowers and a considerate gift, a lightweight laptop optimized for scientific applications. Millie, now approaching 90 and requiring wheelchair assistance, refused to miss the occasion despite health limitations. Eleanor Jenkins, the social worker whose intervention had provided critical support during Benjamin's infancy, accepted their invitation with visible emotion at witnessing this milestone. As Benjamin crossed the stage to receive his diploma, graduating, summa cum laude with special recognition for scientific achievement, Angela witnessed the culmination of promises made 18 years earlier. Standing in the rain with nowhere to go, she had vowed to give her unborn child everything she had never had. Through extraordinary determination and countless sacrifices, that desperate pledge had been fulfilled beyond anything she could have imagined. The summer passed quickly, filled with preparation for Benjamin's college departure and precious time together before their daily lives would separate. They visited Lake Michigan beaches, attended free concerts in Millennium Park, and maintained their ritual dinner conversations, storing memories against coming distance. Angela carefully managed her emotional response to impending change, determined that her own feelings wouldn't burden Benjamin's excitement about his future. Move-in day arrived with inevitable emotional complexity. Angela had arranged vacation, time to drive Benjamin to California, a road trip that provided transitional days together while distributing the emotional weight of separation across miles rather than concentrating it in a single departure moment. They shared driving responsibilities, alternating between thoughtful conversations and comfortable silence as the landscape transformed from Midwest flatlands to western mountains. Stanford's campus welcomed them with California sunshine and elegant architecture that seemed almost unreal after Chicago's urban intensity. As they unloaded Benjamin's modest possessions into his residence hall room, Angela noticed the contrast between their practical packing approach and the elaborate setups orchestrated by families with seemingly unlimited resources. "I think we forgot the matching monogram towel sets and designer bedding," she joked quietly, lightening the emotional undercurrent with humor that Benjamin immediately recognized. "And my personal barista," he responded with matching dryness. "How will I possibly survive?" Their familiar banter, grounded in perspective developed through shared experience, provided momentary relief from the impending separation hovering between them. After assembling furniture and organizing belongings, they walked the campus together, locating science buildings where Benjamin would attend classes and the dining hall he would frequent. Other families engaged in similar explorations, their visible excitement tinged with parental anxiety that transcended socioeconomic differences. In this universal moment of transition, Angela found unexpected solidarity with parents she might otherwise have little in common with, all releasing children into independent lives with mingled pride and apprehension. Their final dinner together, at a restaurant more expensive than Angela would typically select, became a celebration of both achievement and partnership. Benjamin's acceptance of her splurge without protest acknowledged the occasion's significance, tacitly agreeing that budget considerations could be temporarily suspended. "I got you something," he said as their meal concluded, retrieving a small package from his jacket pocket. Inside, Angela found a simple silver pendant with 2 interconnected circles, elegant in its minimalist design and clearly selected with thoughtful intention. "The jeweler said it represents continuous connection," Benjamin explained, unusually self-conscious about the gift. "Even when we're apart, we remain connected." The sentiment, capturing precisely what Angela had been struggling to articulate, brought tears she couldn't entirely contain. "It's perfect," she managed, immediately fastening it around her neck. "I'll wear it every day." Walking back to his residence hall under California stars, their conversation returned to practical matters: communication schedules, holiday planning, academic calendar details. These logistics provided comfortable territory, while emotions remained too raw for direct expression. At the residence hall entrance, the moment they had been simultaneously anticipating and avoiding finally arrived. The other families engaged in similar farewell scenes created backdrop to their private milestone, the first significant separation of their extraordinarily close journey. "You have everything you need?" Angela asked, voice steady through practiced control. "Everything important," Benjamin confirmed. Then, with sudden fierceness unusual for his typically composed demeanor, he embraced her tightly. "Thank you, Mom, for everything. I wouldn't be here without you." "You did the work," she responded, returning his embrace with equal intensity. "I just created space for you to become who you already were." They separated with final reminders about scheduled video calls and confirmed travel dates for Thanksgiving break. As Benjamin turned toward the residence hall entrance, he paused briefly to look back. "We figured it out, didn't we?" he called, referencing their long-standing family mantra with a smile that bridged past and future. "We always do," Angela replied with certainty that extended beyond that moment to whatever challenges awaited them both. "And we always will." Walking alone to her hotel room, Angela touched the silver pendant at her throat, finding unexpected comfort in its solid presence. The circle's symbolism seemed particularly apt, their connection not broken by distance but transformed, continuing in new configuration that honored both their extraordinary history and Benjamin's necessary independence. Their journey had begun with absolute abandonment, a young woman standing alone in the rain with a single suitcase and unborn child. It continued now with voluntary separation, grounded in love strong enough to release rather than cling, the most powerful evidence of their shared success. For years, Angela had worried about what Benjamin might have missed through their unconventional family structure. Tonight, watching him stride confidently toward his future, she recognized with absolute clarity what he had gained instead: resilience forged through witnessed struggle, compassion born from experienced vulnerability, determination cultivated through observed persistence, and unshakable knowledge of being fiercely loved by the parent who had remained. That legacy would sustain him through whatever challenges awaited in his expanding world. And the bond between them, tempered through extraordinary circumstances into something rare and precious, would continue evolving rather than diminishing with distance. In separate spaces that night, mother and son both slept soundly, secure in connection that transcended physical proximity. The true measure of their remarkable journey from abandonment to fulfillment, from isolation to community, From desperate survival to limitless possibility. Congratulations, type 9 in the comments so that I know you stayed until the end with me. Thank you for watching, and until tomorrow's story on this same channel.